mic plugged in.
Let's go use the bathroom.
Right, Z.
And go put this in your bag.
Can you pass me that? Can you pass me that rag right there? I forgot I had my mic plugged in, but not turned on. See, we're trying to get it together.
And I wrapped my Halloween bag.
It got washed. It was in the wash. I don't know why, but it was there. So that's what happened to it.
No, mine's yeah, hers the pumpkin.
I don't know. Why are you asking me about a bag that I don't know? I thought you was. I didn't have it. Who had it where?
No.
Ma'am, listen.
I have to see my drawing.
I'm not finna worry about that right now. I'm busy. I'm getting ready to read my book club. That's what it's called, book club.
Can I come to your book club? Oh.
You have to read the book.
I'm trying to make sure I'm doing this correct. Okay.
I'm not gonna go back and check and see if y'all was on, cause I had plugged the mic in, but I had forgot to turn it on, and so I know how to. Do we need a recap? Do we need a recap? Anybody? Let me scoot you over real quick so you have a good angle. Let me scoot you over a little bit so you can have like at least a decent angle. I just don't want to knock you down. I'm gonna get rid of my gum. I was looking for a little random piece of paper, you know, when you're dealing with these chicks here. You can always just find a random the piece of paper that you can. It's already ripped at the bottom, so all I need is just a little piece to spit my gum in. Do we need a recap? Don't trigger me. don't trigger me. If it's gonna trigger me, just go ahead to chapter 2. If doing the recap is gonna trigger you, then go ahead and just start with chapter 2. Don't even worry about it because, you know, I'm just.
Can I read as well?
Ma'am, get you a snack. Go ahead. Go ahead. Ma'am, I'm not in the mood to be smelling burnt popcorn. I'm not in the mood to be smelling burnt popcorn. I could just let you know right now. I'm trying to tread lightly here about this recap for chapter 1 because I know how I left off last night. And I thought about issuing an apology, you know, for my unprofessionalism and my candidness. But then I thought to myself, for what? For what? That was my honest synopsis. And I even me trying to re-rationalize it all day today. I had all day to like figure out, okay, what happened? What happened? You okay? What happened? Chapter 1 is Scars from the Past. 2 R's. So we're talking about a specific person named Big Scar. Still don't know the dude real government name. Don't know who this individual is, but some way, somehow he was signed to the record label 1017. And then we found out a little background information about him and all that. And then we ultimately, yesterday, we found out that he passed. Now, we did get like a little hint earlier on in the chapter that he was going to OD from, I guess, pills. So we did get like this little hint about it, right? But when we got to the lead up, we got this text message from this random person saying, "Scar's gone." Thank you for the thumbs up. And so the text message alone was very unemotional. We kind of called that out immediately. Oh my goodness. Just this random text message, "Scar's gone." You know, no context, just "Scar's gone." Don't know who it was from, but you know. And so we got the text message, and then we were hoping for some type of closure, or even some type of emotional revelation about, you know, the passing of your mentee. We didn't get none of that. The next paragraph was talking about the KKK down there in Bessemer, Alabama, and then we went down this rabbit hole with racism in Bessemer, Alabama, and then we got like some stats about, oh well, if you experienced any kind of racism, then you're more likely to be diagnosed or experience or whatever something with trauma and some racism down there in Bessemer. You can't, black folks couldn't eat at the stadium grill. They had to order from the bag, eat it in the bag. He had to run to and from the school. Racism, we was getting a lot of racism. And so I was trying to figure out, why is it that I didn't get any closure with Big Scar? I was trying to, I was trying to get it. I was trying to push through because I thought maybe he was going to double back with it or something like that. But then the chapter ended and he was talking about he don't live down there, he don't visit down there, you know, it's too traumatic for him. So today I was like, well, maybe he should have titled, made that part its own little separate chapter or mini chapter, and he should have, you know, titled that one "Unresolved Childhood Trauma, Racism." It could have, it definitely could have been its own chapter, its own mini chapter. Like it didn't have to be included with this chapter 1, because he's saying scars from the past. I didn't get no closure with Big Scar. There was no closure for me. Even if he would have just said, you know, oh well, he passed and I did the best that I could, but you know, whoop-de-doo. Like, at least that would have been a little closure for me. But remember, this book is supposed to be talking about mental health. It's supposed to be talking about, like, you know, the recovery of everything that he has experienced and then that recovery process. I'm not getting any recovery. It's just, oh yeah, but you know what? I said, I'm going to just, chapter 2, we're going to start with chapter 2. We're going to see what's going on. And we're just going to keep moving. We just could. That's not his only artist that passed from an overdose. Let's just put that out there. That's not his only artist. That may be his only male artist, maybe. But that definitely isn't his only artist. But we don't know if she's going to make a cameo in the book either. So we'll just have to wait and see. But if we're trying to experience this recovery then I need for the recovery to be all the way. I don't need half recovery, you know, um, yeah, I got a little text and yeah, he, all right, well, okay. Like, what? But we're on chapter 2, and chapter 2 says, and the title of chapter 2 is called Broken Mirrors. Let's just dive right in, because I had to get myself out the bed. I was like, no, let's. What's the point in closing my eyes? They're just gonna open back up a few minutes later. Even when I feel my body start to relax, and maybe, just maybe, I can fall asleep. It's like, bam, my body pops back up again. After a while, I stopped trying and I just kept moving around all night. I can use my bed for other reasons. Rest don't have to be one of them. That was all in italicized, so see what I mean? I believe we all kind of go through that restlessness. It takes us a while to just get there. It for everyone, especially in this day and age. You really have to figure out what and how what you need to do just to like at least fall asleep. I just learned to put the phone down. Even if I gotta talk to myself, I'll be talking and turning, not out loud, but in my head I'll be talking, you know, and going through different scenarios. It's gonna be different scenarios. They're gonna be here. And I just go through all of them, and I'll make sure that I complete each thought, come to a resolution mentally, and then I'll just keep moving. And then eventually I'll fall asleep. Like I don't make it to bed, or eventually I'll have to get up and use the bathroom, and then kind of go through it all over again. But I know if I cut the air on, you know, and get it cold enough. But anyway, paranoia came naturally to me after a while. Okay, right when my career started, some people tried to harm me. So I carried that with me wherever I went. Paranoia. Okay. People wanted me harmed, so I had to always stay ready. Let me get some water. So unprofessional. I'm so unprofessional. It's my first book for the book club. And listen here. I hardly slept. It was as if my body wouldn't let me. You ever see children fight sleep? They look really tired, but you know they just want to stay up and play. I was the opposite. It wasn't as if I didn't want to sleep. It felt like I didn't know how to rest. There were many nights when I looked up and saw the moon, and then looked up again and saw the sun. No one could tell I hadn't slept the night before because I was always up, wired and working. I can't call it insomnia because eventually I just felt like sleep was wasted hours, especially when I didn't grasp the value of rest. I could be up doing something. I could be making music. I could be hustling. I could be hustling to make money to pay for the studio time to make more music. If I made more music, then I could make more money, more hustling. I can't do either if I'm just out there sleeping. So you see how You see how chapter 2, job. Maybe by the end of chapter 2, we'll get the concept of broken mirrors. Let me see how many pages this is, because I'm already ready. Oh, I'm already 4, 5, 6. Okay, she ain't that bad. What is lights out? Lights on. Lights out. Lights on. Lights out. Lights on. Oh my god. Okay, so oh Lord. I said I was just gonna try to save my commentary to the end, but let's just finish. There were times when I stayed awake for 48 hours straight. There was too much to do and too much money to be made. It didn't help that I was recreationally, popping Molly. So if I was already having trouble sleeping, then the energy boost is a mosquito in here. Excuse me. It flew across my face. If I was already having trouble sleeping, I'm in the garage, relax. Then the energy boost from MDMA had me feeling good about it. Okay. I know now that with or without drugs, the easiest way to induce a psychotic episode is lack of sleep. Okay. Okay. Is it the paranoid schizophrenia? I think it's the paranoid schizophrenia, right? That we're trying to justify. Okay. Newfound fame, money, hustling. Okay. And then not wanting to sleep. But I think that paranoia comes with lack of sleep. But then he said that people wanted him so he couldn't sleep. And he was popping Molly too. So I don't know that with or without drugs, the easiest way to induce a psychotic episode is lack of sleep. Right. Your brain needs rest. Exactly. It's a self-charging battery. Facts. But that battery needs to recharge at some point. I lost a lot of sleep thinking that was my only way to win and building this idea in my mind that I could never fail because I was a born winner. Winners didn't sleep in my world. As a little kid growing up in Bessemer, I used to read a lot. I was always very smart and very advanced. I loved reading. With my mom being a teacher, she always had books for me to look at. And she taught me how to read at a young age. I think it was even before I started school. I learned to read the Bible first and then moved on to books about everything. Learning was something that has always excited me, even to this day. When I want to learn about something, I'll just keep reading and reading about it. I carried that with me from childhood. Even though we were poor, I had plenty of books. My confidence was always high, too. Kids in school used to be scared to get up and read in class. Not me. I was excited to do it. And this was when I was just 5 years old in Bible study. No other little kid wanted to get up and read. Hell, most of them didn't even know how to at that young age. But once I got up and started reading to the class, I really impressed my teacher and all of my friends. I loved that attention too. I think it was my starting point for wanting to be famous. I knew I wanted to be a star after that. It was going to be my profession to impress everybody and be praised for it. My grades were always good and I was always on the honor roll. which got me even more attention. Of course, I balanced being book smart with being street smart and was way too mature for my age. Since my big brother Victor was close to 7 years older than me, I wanted to be advanced enough to hang around him. He introduced me to hip hop, and I also got to stick around him and his friends. I just always wanted to be older. I especially wanted to act older. Child, I'm trying to drink this water here. I did remember my straw, but I didn't drink enough water. Before I got here, that's why I was trying to chew that gum. Before I turned 10 years old, we moved to Atlanta, and even though Alabama is a neighboring state of Georgia, it was like a whole other world. Being rich and prosperous was within reach in Atlanta. It seemed like we could never get to that level in Bessemer. I was drawn to that Atlanta lifestyle the moment I laid eyes on it. I knew that I wanted to make money at a very young age, so I immediately found a way to do it. My first job was at the age of 9, right after my mom, brother, and I moved in with my dad in East Atlanta into the Mountain Park apartments. They were really low-income housing. Me and OJ, the juice man, used to live in the same building. And one of the other guys in our development paid us $50 a week to clean up around the apartment grounds. Juice and I each had a thick stick with a nail drilled into the tip, and we would walk around and pick up the trash by poking it with the stick, putting it in a bucket, and then throwing it out in the dumpsters behind the buildings. Eventually, Juice and I started collecting the cans we found during our cleanups to make money off them too. Once we had enough cans, we would bring them all to the recycling plant and make another $10 a piece. That's a lot of money for little kids. This was my hustler origin story, because from that point on, I knew I had to make money by any means necessary. In the 6th grade, I started really hustling. Don't start all that yawning. My big brother was in the 12th grade, and we both went to school over in Cedar Grove, because after we moved in with my dad, we just stayed in that other school district. Okay. Because after we moved in with my dad, we just stayed in that other school district. It wasn't too far from where we lived, but it was much more rural, and the environment was like night and day from our home. I was at Cedar Grove Elementary, and my brother was at Cedar Grove High School, where he played football and sold weed. He bought me into the business, where he'd give me $30 off every 10 cents I'd sell while he was at work. What he didn't know was that I started charging people more and pocketing the difference. I wanted money, so I became a little businessman real quick and made the math work for me. So by the time my brother gave me my $30 for 10 cents, I had already made an extra 10 on the upcharge. Some days my pay was as high as 100. I thought he said he was at Cedar Grove Elementary, and his brother was at Cedar Grove High. Ain't that what he said? I was at Cedar Grove Elementary, and my brother was at Cedar Grove High, right? Where he played football, and he sold weed. And he said that he bought him into the business. I'm like, who you selling weed to in elementary school, or am I tripping? Okay. It got to the point where I wanted to just sell everything he was holding so that he could go to school, work, and play football. And I could get the lion's share of the money. But he had his loyal regulars who weren't going to choose a little kid over him. So I had to start building up my own clientele. That wasn't too difficult to do, especially around my way. My mother used to call our area a drug trap. And unfortunately, let me see, I lost my spot. Ma'am, please don't come here distracting me. Please don't come here distracting me. Look, I lost my spot. My mother used to call our area drug trap. And unfortunately, she was right. But all I saw as a kid were dollar signs and the opportunity to keep them coming. I was fixated on more and more money to one day live the way I saw other people in Atlanta living. I didn't want to be in low-income housing. I wanted to be rich. You might even call it an addiction. Years later, I got out of prison, and after reading my first book, my brother apologized to me. See how we just jumped? Maybe I should have stopped, because technically that was the end of a paragraph, so I should have stopped. I apologize. And that was Madison distracted me. She said there was a bull or something crawling up there. I'm like, well, we're in the garage. I already told them that. Especially with the woods behind us. Okay. We don't know what he went to prison for, but now it's years later I got out of prison. It's all over the place. The timeline is just, that's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, who are you selling weed to in elementary school? Okay. I was fixated on more and more money to come to one day. More and more. I was fixated on more and more money to one day live the life I saw other people in Atlanta living. I didn't want to be in low-income housing. I wanted to be rich. You might even call it an addiction, right? And then that was the end of the paragraph. And then here we go, years later. I'm like, what? What you went to prison for? Once I got out of prison, here we go. And after reading my first book, his first book, is he talking about his first book, his autobiography? And after reading my first book, okay, my brother apologized to me. He felt responsible for putting me on a path that eventually led me behind bars, introducing me to drug dealing. I don't know. The timeline is throwing me off. I told him it was water under the bridge and that I knew he didn't mean any harm in what he was doing back then. Okay, so we were talking about, okay. In reality, my need to make money came before any of that hustling that was going on with him. He didn't instill that in me, I instilled that in myself. After he showed me the ropes in 6th grade, I wanted to level up quickly. By 7th grade, I'd returned to school in my own district once my brother graduated from high school. That's where I met my best friend, who was a better hustler than I had ever been. He had a lot of money on him and always wore nice clothes. I started hustling with him from the 7th grade all the way up until I graduated. My trapping only elevated after that. Once I got out of high school, I told my mom that I wanted to take a year off, and then I would enroll in community college. I really just told her that to get her off my back. That whole year from 18 straight into 19, I was hustling day and night. I hustled a little too hard because I got arrested and was hit with drug charges. The judge told me in my sentencing that I had to enroll in college and go for 9 months straight. And then after that, I had to go to jail for 90 days. that made no sense to me. I had to go to school and then jail. Knowing that jail time was hanging over my head, I wasn't paying any attention while I was going to school. But I needed a better hustle than what I was doing. I couldn't stay on the block too much after that because those 90 days in jail could easily multiply if I got caught again. The key was to not get caught. I didn't take school seriously at all. I just showed up the first day and then I sold all my books back and pocketed the money. Then I'd take that money and buy even more drugs to sell when I knew damn well I wasn't supposed to be doing that. I had another little job, but I didn't make that a priority either. I had to do something more. He got me sleepy already. So I decided to become a rapper and put all of my money into that. Those who knew me my whole life will tell you that I wrote poetry as a kid. I'd show it to my mom, and since she was a teacher, I felt like she was the best audience for it. She would give me compliments, but also some notes. Not in a harsh way, but she'd help me with my sentence structure. Eventually, writing in a rhyme scheme became easier and easier. So by the time I went to write rhymes for songs, that wasn't nothing to me. I could do it too quickly. I could do it quickly. I was used to it since childhood. I cut my first CD in the months leading up to the 90 days in jail, but I still needed a plan in place for when the 90 days ended. That's when I hit up the friend who I'd started hustling with back in 7th grade. I told him my plans to rap and he wanted in on it. So we decided to go half on the business and we formed our own little rap group. I wrote the raps for the both of us since making music came naturally to me. This was my first real blueprint for my rap career. With that charge hanging over my head, the hustling was harder to do. I needed the money to finance my music and the plans me and my buddy had. But knowing my hands were kind of tied on the trapping side, the rap group became my main focus. If I could have built that foundation on rapping alone, then it would have taken off faster than it did. But again, you need money for all of that. I also understood the value of a good network, and my goal was to always keep climbing up no matter what. My friend wanted us to stay independent and didn't really seem to want us to collaborate with anybody. Meanwhile, I knew that in order for us to keep this train moving, we had to do all of the above. We also had to flood the market. It was the only way to keep that music going and develop any consistency. I was real strong in that department. It was nothing for me to go to the studios, smoke some weed, and then 2 hours later have both of our verses all done and the track ready to be recorded. I just give my friend the lyrics and he would go and rap them. I was like a machine where it was make money, make music, don't sleep and repeat. We put tapes together and all, but again, there's more to the situation than that. I was still pressed for time, knowing this jail sentence was coming as the bills started piling on. If the guy at the studios charged us $50 an hour, then my best friend and I would split it $25 each. If the producer charged $500 a beat, we'd pay $250 a piece. But my buddy was hustling more than I was. So if he's pulling in 6 figures, I'm just here with about $20,000 watching my money drop down lower and lower. Now I'm down $6,000 and I'm getting stressed out. Let me get some water. I told you I was in the bed. I had to pull myself out. I was sleepy. Dozing too. I'm like, oh, get up. Get up. I don't want to get up, man. How many pages we done read? Okay. I done turned 3 pages. Let me see. Let me see. I'm taking a break. Oh my God. Because then you know we got these little black pages. Let me show you, Jai. Show you what we're going working with here. We got these little. Remember earlier I was like lights on, lights off. These little black pages talking about lights on, and then lights out, lights on, and then you got lights out, lights on, and then I believe that's the end of it, right? No, lights out, lights on, and then that's the end of it, y'all. What time is it, y'all? Ooh, my goodness. We're gonna push through. We're gonna push through. Let me see where I left off at. Did I know? Okay, let me see. Because he ain't hustling, but he trying to be a rapper. Somebody's friend. I was hustling still, but music was my main focus. Okay, thankfully I didn't get caught while I was hustling during that time. I already had the train moving, and after serving my 90 days, I was back outside. The judge from that first charge made a deal with me that if I went to school for those 9 months and served those 90 days, he would wipe my record clean since it was my first charge. As he kept that promise once I held up my end of the bargain. Oh, and he kept that promise once I held up my end of the bargain. So there I was, off probation with a clean record, making money, and really tasting freedom. If there was a way to be both focused and reckless, I had found it. My money couldn't get as high up as my buddies, though, since my hustling was capped with my charges. Getting this music to pop off had a whole bigger value when the money was drying up. We had cut a demo, but I just knew it wasn't going to get any play in the club or in the streets without doing more, even though my buddy thought it was enough. This was all costing me too much money, and it felt like a lot with little return. It wasn't a lot to him, though. We were only 20 to 21 years old, and I had to keep going. Eventually, I had to make a decision for myself. If I really wanted music to be my main hustle, then I had to do what it took to get there. Sometimes you have to switch things up in order for that to happen. I knew what I needed to do. So I told my buddy that I was going to start working with some other guys from the neighborhood and with some people my brother knew. He didn't like that. That's when my buddy stopped fucking with me, and I started doing this music on my own. I was under a lot of pressure back then in a way that I don't even think I understood until I was in my 40s, when I was forced to take a hard look at how my brain worked. There's this theory that sleep deprivation can be used for mind control. Cults and some military regimes have been known to deprive people of sleep before they start brainwashing them. Without sleep, you don't have enough of your sensors on alert to control your emotions. That's when everything becomes impulse and things can slide and permanently rewire your brain. So if I'm not sleeping, if I'm stressed out about money and putting too much pressure on myself, then I'm sending the wrong messages to my own mind. I'm brainwashing myself. At 20, my mind was still young enough to take in those faulty messages, but also grown enough to make mistakes because of them. I had just left my teenage years and I was going nonstop, putting stress on myself to succeed in this rap-ish because it became the hustle that I knew I could master. I would be up 24, 48 hours at a time and think nothing of it. I thought that was the right thing to do. Sometimes ambition is good, but when it costs you your sleep, your sanity, your state of mind, then it's going to have some effects that aren't good on your mind or your body. What I didn't realize was that all of those sleepless nights, hustling and pushing forward, could have made my brain primed for those episodes to come. Let me get my little friend in the bag. Hold on, excuse me. Careful. The charger had, shout out to me, I got 3 thumbs up over here. Ow. What's your charge looking like, honey? Do you need to take a break? Let me see, 69%. I can let you take a break real quick. We'll come back to it. Let it cool off. Hold on, let me, I have a, excuse me. Hold on, give me a second. Let's do chapter. And then what was that? Page 18. Okay. Now we're on chapter 2. Page. What is that? 38. Okay. What's the quote? I got a quote that I wanna. Sometimes it's the ambition. Did I put the M? Ambition. Sometimes ambition is good, comma, but when it costs you your sleep, comma, your sanity, comma, and your state of mind, then it's going to have some effects that aren't good on your mind or your body. Make sure I got all that right. Sometimes ambition is good, but when it costs you your sleep, your sanity, and your state of mind, then it's going to have some effects that aren't good on your body. Okay, I got it. I typed it right. I just needed my quote.
So that's your background.
Over here. Yeah, the book. Right, because I'm reading the book. Okay, I had a quote. I wanted to quote that. That was good. Ambition. What I did. Yes.
Wow, so you're already on 38.
Correct.
I wonder how many there could be.
I don't know, ma'am. I ain't checked at the end. I'm just reading it slowly.
It looks like a lot of pages.
Yes.
This is the longest charger I have ever seen anywhere else.
It's the extension cord.
I saw it up there.
Huh?
I saw it up there.
Yeah, I know. I keep it over there so I don't have to go look for it. What I didn't realize was that all of those sleepless nights, hustling and pushing forward. Okay. Did I read that? Did I read it? Pushing forward could have made my brain primed for those episodes to come. Okay. When you're trying to make it as an artist, you're stressed no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're a pop star or a rapper. Pressure is pressure. And then if you're a hustler, you're stressed about making money, but also ducking the feds. I was a combination of both, with a brain that didn't know how to turn off. I remember when I graduated high school, I thought I was a genius. I had a 3.0 GPA, and that was without even applying myself. I knew deep down that if I had put in just a little more effort, I might have graduated with a 4.0 straight up. I used to look at the people around me and wonder if they even knew how to read. And that's not me being judgmental. It's just a matter of fact. Now, listen, ouch. I knew that I was born smarter and that I was lucky to have this mind of mine. But what I didn't know was that I could just as easily crash my brain and leave it open to be rewired. Rewired. It was the immortality of youth, I say, combined with an underlying mental health condition that was waiting to explode at any minute. I was the smartest man in my mind, but completely ignorant of what my brain was about to go through. Okay. Uh-oh. And then lean entered the picture. This is a quote by Dr. Joe A. Quote, promethazine has been known to induce some manic episodes. There's literature on that. Now, there are some people who could get manic episodes from any of these drugs that have no underlying illness. But often, those people who end up with any kind of mania, or in some cases, psychosis, it could sort of unleash that. So, any of us could potentially have an underlying mood disorder that hasn't manifested itself. But sometimes there are things that we might do that could then unlock that. We could spin our wheels over and over again trying to figure out what came first. Was I born with a susceptibility to this? Or, for some reason, did certain drugs just induce it? Which they are able to do. Sometimes it's only in hindsight. As you go forward or backwards, for that matter, do we see if there were any either milder cases of mania or any actual manic episodes before or after the drug use, when the drug isn't being used? It's just like this long ass sentence where you're like trying to like, puzzle it together and like read it so it can make sense. Cause I'm like, okay, just stop it. And then that you I'm like, you read the sentence. I'm like, but you get what, I mean, hopefully you get what he's saying as far as like, some people have it, and as far as these mood disorders and how sometimes, the substance abuses can sort of unlock those mood disorders, manic episodes, and things of that such, mania. I wonder, when did it start? Like, I'm curious to know, when did that lean start? Because it just came out of nowhere. Especially with the rappers. Like, it just came out of nowhere. to the point to whereas you heard about artists like Gucci Mane when he started, Future when he started. Like I said, you just wonder, like, when did all this start? Because I'm a little, like, it just kind of popped up and came out of nowhere. And, then it just sort of became this fad. Like, everybody just, ling, ling, ling. It's like, what in the world is going on? Where is this coming from? Like, and who made this cool? Especially for, like, the rappers. I stared down at my hand. I was bleeding. It was bleeding, but I couldn't feel any pain. Yes, Madeline.
I just wanted to say, are you gonna be done with your book?
When I'm done, ma'am, this is why I do this at nighttime so I don't have any distractions from people. This is why I wait till everybody's going to bed so I can just read my book and I'm not distracted.
Okay.
So I don't know, typically when I just get tired, I just stop and be like, all right, we'll just pick back up tomorrow. That's why I wait till everybody go to bed. So that way I don't have to keep having the door open and closed. People keep throwing their trash. People keep coming to get snacked. People keep trying to look in the camera. Like, it just, because now I'm being proactive. I'm trying to read. And now I got to explain myself and keep stopping. When you're reading, you don't want to be distracted because you're trying to understand what the book is saying.
I like reading short books.
Okay. Well, this ain't a short book. So it's taking some time. Obviously, this ain't gonna be no quick thing that I could do.
Oh, okay.
Are y'all done with y'all snack? Okay, go on back to bed and lay on down. I stared down at my hand. It was bleeding, but I couldn't feel any pain. There were cuts all along my knuckles and fingers with shards of glass buried deep in my skin. Smaller pieces were dusted over the blood. My entire fist looked like it was covered in glitter as I thought to myself, well, how did this happen? I tried lean for the first time at around 21 years old when I was in the studio with some guys from Savannah who'd brought it over to Atlanta with them. They were big on lean and always on it, especially when they made music. Once my buddy and I stopped making our music together, I started working with these other guys making music, traveling to perform, all of that. On top of that, we drank lean. Most people in the know can rattle off the ingredients of lean easily: promethazine, codeine, Sprite, and a Jolly Rancher candy. It ain't no scientific formula, but what it does to your brain is pure science. For me, it didn't seem to do much at first, besides maybe relaxing me a little. I was also smoking weed with it, but it wasn't making me any higher than hitting a blunt. I wasn't drinking lean a lot early on, just enough to keep up with everybody else in the studio. Sometimes we would go to the club afterward, and the next day my phone would ring. People would be on the line saying shit to me like, Gucci, you was acting real funny in the club last night. Did somebody slip you something? They couldn't really put their finger on what that funny at first. Finger on what was funny at first. Sometimes I was just looking off to the side. Other times I was just real quiet. I didn't remember any of it. Matter of fact, there were times I didn't even remember being at the club. I just wrote it off as my being too high to recall. A year later, I believe that my brain was rewired for good. There I was back in Alabama, sitting at a Waffle House when someone handed me a spoon. It was full of cough syrup, the main ingredient of lean. Only this was a more intense dose than the lean that I had in the past. It was straight syrup, right from the medicine bottle. No Sprite, no styrofoam double cup, not even a Jolly Rancher like some people used to. I took the spoonful of syrup and swallowed it because if I'd already drunk lean and not too much happened, maybe straight syrup would just get me regular high. So I took some more. I was there with a girl that I was talking to, along with one of her female friends. And then a guy her friend had brought along with her. I guess you could call it a double date. The girls weren't really into lean. The guy was, though. And before the Waffle House, we were all just smoking weed. Then this guy came out with a spoon full of highly concentrated cough syrup right from the bottle. It was being spoon fed to everyone at the table like we were sick in bed with a cold. I didn't understand how this was just being handed off by itself with no Sprite or candy. We just kept passing the spoon around like it was a blunt. Alabama was a whole other level with how they took their syrup. I can't even call it lean at that point. It was just medicine on top of medicine. I am sure other places handle it this way too, but it was the first time that I had ever witnessed some wild ish like this. They just took the cough syrup right from the spoon. My God. Child, I told you he different over there in Alabama now. Let me see if I'm finna change mics. Because I've learned to do that too. You just swap it out. So that way, when nobody down you. I'm telling you, man. Let me see if my computer need to be charged up. Whew. Let me see what we got going on, child, because, I'm going to probably give it to like 1. I'm going to probably give it to like 1 o'clock, and then I'm going to just call it a night. Hopefully, I can get through the end of the chapter, since we got all these blackout pages. We're going to try to push through. I be having to stop, child. I be having to give myself a break. Oh, my goodness. Luckily, I ain't eating smacking in your ear. That's because I ate before I got here. Literally. I had some of them Ritz crackers with that cheese, that Colby Jack. Ate the last of that birthday cake. Whew, it's so yummy. Had me some sun chips. It was light, some Fritos. Like I wasn't doing too much in them cinnamon graham crackers. So see, I ain't do too much. But Broken Mirrors. Remember, that's the chapter, the name of the chapter. Let's keep going. They taking the cough syrup from the spoon, Lord, my God. They didn't even cut it with anything else. They were just dosing out high concentrated medicine like a fruit punch. It's one thing to be sick and need it, but the bottle had the correct dose right on it. You know, nobody is paying attention to that when it comes to recreational use, right? They just keep shoveling it in. Then they'll take either their blunts or their Black and Milds and dip them. Oh my Lord, Jesus. Who do that? with them cigarettes. That doggone PCP, ain't it? Ain't this the PCP that be dipping them cigarettes? Lord Jesus. I can say this much: the blunts that I was smoking over in Alabama definitely didn't have cough syrup soaked into them. I would have known immediately, because when they dip their, oh my goodness, that's a mosquito. Okay, because when they're dipped, they're sticky and hard to hold. Oh, so whatever I was smoking in Alabama was just plain old weed. Okay. Something happened. Something happened after I took that cough syrup. Okay, Sherlock. Something that didn't happen to anyone else. Uh-oh, at that table. Uh-oh. When the average person drinks some lean, they feel relaxed and slowed down. Sometimes they feel sleepy and they feel no pain. That's because there are opioids in there. So it triggers something in the brain that makes you feel good and at ease. The hormone dopamine gets released into your body, and that's what gives you that feeling. The Sprite is there to give it that fizzy taste, but since Sprite has no caffeine in it, it helps keep the slowed down effect. The Jolly Rancher, that makes it taste like candy and less like medicine. It's easy to drink, like it's a melted lollipop mixed with soda. The effect is kind of like walking through Candyland for some people. For me, it was a different story. I had never dropped a Jolly Rancher in my lean, and I didn't only use Sprite. I'd mix it with whatever soda was around. Before I got to that table, I hadn't done anything out of the ordinary that day. I was 21 years old back in Alabama for a little bit to hustle, selling drugs and pew-pews and whatnot. The trapping was drying up in Atlanta since everybody was trying to get in on the business, which made it easier for people to get caught. A guy I knew had told me that just 2 hours away, back in my home state, there was more business, meaning hustling, available. It was like a gold mine compared to the slow trapping happening in Georgia. I grabbed one of my buddies to come with me so that I could go make some money and still have some fun while I was out there. So me and my friend came down from the A to go handle some business in the other A. I was making good money, hustling at the time, regardless of the drought in Atlanta. I was also just getting started in music. Things were going good, but making money was crucial to building out my music career and to looking sharp while doing it. I had enough spending money to go buy 2 Atlanta Hawks throwback jerseys to wear while I was down in Alabama. I bought them in 2 different colors for $500 a piece. Not the throwbacks for $500. I thought nothing of the price tags. I grabbed the jerseys to wear, and then I was good to go. My buddy and I both hopped on the Greyhound with my $1,000 in Hawks jerseys, ready to hustle in the streets of my old stomping grounds. Once I got to Alabama, it was like I had never left. Even though it was my home state, it felt more like a home away from home and familiar enough to be comfortable. I was still doing my thing, smoking weed and hanging out with my friends and that one girl I was talking to from over there. There was nothing at the start of my trip that I could look back on and say, right there, that's when I took a turn. At least not before the Waffle House incident. Okay. Uh-oh. What happened? If your brain needs something like medication, then the effects will do what they're supposed to do. If you have ADHD and you take Adderall, then you're going to focus better. If you take Adderall with no ADHD, your brain is going to speed up and you might fly off the deep end. It's a stimulant, so your heart might beat faster. You might sweat and get anxious. But if your brain needs it, then you won't feel so wired. You might even feel more relaxed. Same goes for the medicine in lean when you're not feeling sick. Promethazine is an antihistamine. Antihistamine? I think it's antihistamine, right? So it's supposed to help with an allergic reaction. Sometimes it's given to people with anxiety to calm them down. Codeine is an opioid, so it takes pain away, but it also relaxes your lungs. People get it as a syrup when they're coughing a lot. When codeine hits your body, it turns into morphine, which has that deeper pain healing effect. The combination, if you're sick, will help with pain and coughing. What happens if you're not in any pain or coughing? Your body will just feel like a puddle. A puddle. What did he say? Some people like that feeling. I wanted that feeling too. But at first it wasn't coming. Instead, I was having this strobe light effect in my brain where everything would go dark. Then the lights would come back on, but every time the lights flashed on, something new had happened. Oh my goodness. Eventually, it just all faded to black. Something's wrong with Gucci. That's what the girl I was with said to my cousin on the phone right after we left the Waffle House that night. She told him that I wasn't acting like myself. Said it felt like she didn't even know me. We met up with some other people later that night. People who I had known a very long time. And they said the same thing. You ever looked into a mirror and think that's what you look like, but then you see a photograph and you realize the mirror was reversed? Hold on, let me read it again. You ever looked into a mirror and think that's what you look like? Okay. You look in the... Okay, you think that's what you look like. Okay, I think that's what I look like. But then you see a photograph and you realize the mirror is reversed. I don't know how the photograph got into it if I'm looking in the mirror. He said, you ever looked in the mirror and think that's what you look like? I don't know how am I supposed to think that's what I look like if I'm looking in the mirror? It can only show me what I'm looking at. Mirrors don't play mind tricks on you. No mind games in the mirror. If you look in the mirror, I'm going to see what I see. But then he said, and you think that's what you look like, but then you see a photograph. Is it a mirror or is it a photograph? Because either one's still going to give me exactly what it's saying. Okay, well, hold on. Let me see. Am I missing something? Okay, because if I'm looking in the mirror, but then if I see a photograph, but then you see a photograph, and you realize the mirror is reversed. I'm trying to catch it. Maybe let me quote them, and then maybe it'll come back to me. You know, like 5 years from now, it may make sense. I don't know. It ain't clicking because I'm like, let me type it out and see. It might help. Chapter 2. Where we at? Page 44. Give me the quote. My God. Scroll up. It's really scroll down, but you know that Mac, you gotta scroll up to scroll down. It's so irritating. It took me too long to figure it out. Quote. Okay. Let's. You ever look into a mirror, and think, comma. That's probably what you should have did, comma, and think, and think, and okay. You ever look into a mirror and think that's what you look like? Let me put a question mark right there. And think that's what you look like. I have to add my own punctuation because okay, but then hold on, let me put a dot, but then you see a photograph. You see a photograph. But then you see a photograph and you realize the mirror is reversed. I'm not getting this mirror reversed. Is that ideology? I'm just not getting it. You realize the mirror is reversed. You realize the mirror is reversed. I was already looking in the mirror. Cut it down. It's so loud. That's how it seemed to me. I just didn't see anything out of the ordinary. But little signs later showed me something was very wrong. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but little signs later showed me something was very wrong. But little signs later showed me something was very wrong. Okay, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. So I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. But okay. The photograph. Okay. Later. Okay, right. Okay. So if somebody right. You know, like when you have to look back at yourself picture, okay. Later you realize, okay. But then what was the look in the mirror, okay. In the mirror and think that's what you look like. Okay. You think that's what you look like. But when you see a photograph and you realize the mirror is reversed, I'm still not getting, like, I'm getting it all the way up to the mirror is reversed. The mirror is reversed. It's the mirror. Lights out. Keep going, lights on. The one thing I felt was really, really high. Okay, I smoked weed, so in my mind, that's what caused it. But I also felt like I couldn't get my balance right. Like I was walking on a boat at sea in the middle of a storm. Then in other moments, it felt like I wasn't even there in the room. In my opinion, it was the closest feeling to when people say they had an out-of-body experience. By the time my night ended, the feeling was starting to wear off. Of course, I didn't sleep. The next day, I still didn't feel right. But I just couldn't point out what was wrong with me. I was finding it hard to hustle. I felt weak and unfocused. And really, I just wanted to hang out. Everyone looked nervous around me, though. They said I was acting erratic. I couldn't see it, but it felt like everyone was staring at me. And then I started getting paranoid. Now I didn't trust anybody, and they didn't trust me. The buddy who came with me from Atlanta and I decided to go to the club later that night. I gave him one of my Hawks jersey to wear, and I wore the other one. When we got there, the out-of-body feeling started happening again. I put my drink to my mouth, and as I looked through the bottom of the glass, everything looked distorted. But when I put the glass down, it still looked the same, like I was viewing the club through a fisheye lens. I sat still. Maybe if I didn't move, it would all go away. The bass from the music was banging on my eardrums. Why is it so loud in here? Did the club always spin like this? Why is everyone looking at me? Why is it so dark in here? It do be dark in the club, y'all. Okay, lights out, lights on. Okay. I kept hearing these voices. I turned and looked around me. I saw the club owner standing by the bar. He don't like you, the voice whispered to me. I responded out loud, but I don't like him either. I did like him though. I'd known him for years. He knew my whole family. But if somebody doesn't like me, then shit, I'm just gonna decide I don't like them back. He thinks you're trying to rob him. Man, I don't need to rob him. His little club ain't me. Like I need his money. He better start staring at me. He wants you out of the club. He might even call the cops. I don't know then. I can police. You better stop staring at me. They y'all better stop staring at me. You're not welcome in this club. He hates you, man. He thinks you're a thief. Well, now I'm gonna sit right here and then, now I'm gonna sit right here then and still listen and enjoy. How about that? And who's that tall in the corner? Why is he sitting there looking at me like that? I pointed at him. He pointed back. You're not gonna look at me like I'm crazy. This is my city. I don't want to block. But he wouldn't stop staring at me. I stood up. So did he. Oh, you want to fight now? Is that what it is? I ain't scared of you. Darn it. You're gonna pay me now. I walked over to him. He started walking over to me. He wants to be funny, huh? I raised my fist, and so did he. Nah, you're not gonna catch me first. I'm gonna knock you right in your jaw. And I did. Pow. Lights out. Lights on. My hand was covered in blood. The man was gone. I looked straight ahead and saw parts of my own face distorted from the remaining pieces of the mirrored wall in the club. Okay. Interesting. Wow. Interesting. I kind of like that analogy now. I was trying to figure out when I was going to get it, but I like that analogy. How when the lights went out, you don't remember, but when the lights came back on, how you look in that broken glass, how your face looking that broke. What the reverse? Can I get the reverse? Did I get it? Did I get you see a photo and you realize the mirror is reversed. Oh, interesting. The broken mirror. Maybe you should have said the broken mirror is reversed. I probably would have caught it then. It took me a minute. But I like that broken mirror analogy because you know how it look. Well, I don't know if you know. I'm pretty sure we've all seen a movie how it look. Your face looking at broken glass. Okay, let me get back. I looked straight ahead and saw parts of my own face, right, distorted from the remaining pieces of the mirrored wall in the club. Okay. The rest had shattered right to the ground. My sneakers were covered in glass. The pieces crunched under the rubber soles as I moved back and forth. I looked back at the wall at the remaining pieces of mirror that survived the crash. I could see parts of my eyes, a little of my mouth. I looked like a Picasso painting. Bingo. Nailed it. Exactly. It's the first person who came to mind at that on Picasso. Because he went through that phase too, where he would just like chop it up, which was really pretty fascinating. But that was the first person that came to mind when I thought about when he said lights came back on and he saw his face in that broken mirror. I stared back down, right at my hand and wiggled my bloody fingers. They sparkled. I started laughing. They say broken mirrors give you 7 years of bad luck. Well, let the games begin. Lights out, lights on. Okay, we're on our last 2 pages here. Can we make it before 1 o'clock? Oh, see, I make my own time. Thank you for thugging it out with me over here on Twitch. The next morning, I was exhausted. My brain felt tired. My buddy understood that I was going through something. Who wouldn't? So he didn't hold it against me. But he did ask me if I wanted my jersey back. Nah, you can keep it. I told him. Any other time or in any other circumstance, I would have been like, yeah, give me my $500 jersey back, man. But I was even too tired to ask for it. To be honest, I was embarrassed by my behavior. I had hoped that by giving him the jersey, it was also my way of saying, let's forget this ever happened. And he did. Nobody in Atlanta heard about what had happened in Alabama. He could have run his mouth, especially since I was so busy being foolish that we didn't even get to make the kind of money we wanted to on that trip. I had some real clientele down there too. So it didn't all go down the way I needed it to, but because I was too busy being erratic. Erratic is erratic with a busted hand. Well, busted up hand. My buddy told me on the way back to Atlanta that he thought somebody slipped something in my drink. I let him believe that. He didn't need to know what really happened to my brain, especially since I didn't even have the knowledge or the words yet to explain it to him. There are a lot of feelings that come to mind when I think about that time in Alabama. But the biggest one is anger. I'm mad at myself that I took that spoonful of cough medicine. I wish I'd never done it. I should have just said, nah, and kept smoking my weed. But when you're young and you think you're invincible, you'll try anything once, maybe even twice. If the lean did nothing to me before, why would it start now? After that moment, I can say for a fact that every drug I took brought me further and further down that spiral. And in my eyes, though, it all started with that first spoon. But why did it happen to me? 22 years later, I sat on the phone with Dr. Joe, who is that? Psychiatrist to celebrities and athletes, asking him why me. Of all the people in the world who take drugs all the time, why didn't their brains break like mine did? Why did I end up winning the worst lottery possible? I was still confused. It didn't make sense to me. I went 22 years without feeling that way, I told him. Why did I take the same drugs my friends did and they didn't have a reaction? But I did. I even tried counting the times I had drunk lean before that. It was like 3 times, I said to him. Maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 7. But why me? I just wanted some answers. Dr. Joe told me a story. It was about a basketball player named Len Bias. He was drafted by the Boston Celtics as the 2nd overall pick in the 1986 NBA draft. What?
So can you repeat this, YouTube?
I'm almost finished. I'm almost finished. I'm on my last 2 paragraphs right here. I'm almost finished.
Hello. Hello. So now, so what you gonna fill the down bottom with?
Just give me 2 minutes. I'm almost finished. I believe I just said it, didn't I? I said I got like these last 2 paragraphs, and then I'm almost finished.
Like this, like this.
Yeah,
one?
this one and this one. Yeah, I'm right here. I'm on my last 2.
Oh wow, someone had class in 2022.
Dr. Joe told me a story. It was about a basketball player named Len Bias. He was drafted by the Boston Celtics as the 2nd overall pick in the 1986 NBA draft. 2 days later, he died from a cocaine overdose that caused a cardiac arrhythmia. He was only 22 years old, the same age as I was when I had that first episode, and the same age as Big Scar. Len Bias was the draft pick, like Scar was in the 2022 XXL freshman class. They both had their whole careers ahead of them. He passed before he even got to play in his first NBA game, Dr. Joe said. I don't know his whole history. Maybe he did cocaine 50 times with no problem, and the 51st harmed him. Or maybe it was his very first time, and that was it. The fatal blow. The point is, he continued, it's the same type of deal. Only not with the heart, but with the brain. I believe in my heart that the Waffle House incident started all of it. It was the fatal blow to my brain. After that, the strobe lights just kept on flickering. I believe this is, yeah, okay, all right. See, I told you I was at the end of that chapter.
Oh, so I tomorrow. I wonder what has red here on October 18th.
Correct.
So that's our appointment.
No, that's today. In the meantime, in between time. Okay, love you, bye.
So are you confusing with this? No.
In the meantime, in between time. Okay, love you, bye.